we are recording.
Good afternoon, and welcome to our Silent Samaritan Keynote Address and Woman of Strength Award. 2020 marks the 16th year of this event, which is the important closing of the Silent Samaritan campaign. And for the first time, we're doing it virtually. So we have a best possible virtual experience. I ask you to mute your microphone, and if you have questions or comments that you would like to leave in the chat box, we'll get back to you after the event. For those of you who don't know me, I am Rosangela Berbert, Executive Director of the Samaritan Counseling Center of the Fox Valley, and I thank you for joining me and the Samaritan team of volunteers and staff today. Before we hear from our keynote speaker, Allison Garner, I'd like to take a moment to thank the planning committee volunteers who made this campaign happen. Mary Doon, Andrea Alpert Buss, Susan Morrissey, Barb Remaker, Ann Lorkey, Carolyn Brown Shenning, and Jim Morgenstern. Also, a big thank you to Jane France and Kim Davis from Samaritan staff for making this event happen virtually. This year is a big departure from past events, and we would not be able to be here if it was not for the efforts of this great team to keep it going. I would like to extend our heartfelt gratitude to each one of you for supporting this year's campaign. We also appreciate your understanding as we made the difficult decision to cancel our luncheon and go virtual. This event has become a vibrant thread in the tapestry that is Samaritan Counseling Center, and it is our hope that we continue to weave it into our picture in some fashion. As you know, proceeds from the Silent Samaritan campaign subsidize care for low-income adults. Last year, we raised almost $30,000, which allowed 125 women and men to access affordable care. Before we close the event today, I will share where we are at this year. After we hear from Allison, please stay with us as we'll also present the nominees for the Connie Steele Woman of Strength Award. We first met Allison Garner when she gave a TED Talk at UW Oshkosh. Allison is a coach, consultant, engineer, author, wife, and mother. She has a bachelor's in chemical engineering, master's in business administration, and is a certified and credentialed professional coach. After serving as an engineer for 20 years in the oil industry, she founded her own coaching and consulting practice, Align Coaching, in 2015. In addition to sitting on multiple boards and advisory committees, she has been an Oshkosh Area School District Board member for 7 years and has served as treasurer, vice president, and president. She has been a resident of Oshkosh since 2000, where she lives on beautiful Lake Winnebago. Today, she will share her journey as a woman of need, becoming a woman of strength. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming Allison Garner.
So thank you, Rosangela, for asking me to be a part of this fundraiser and to come and speak. It's an absolute honor. And when I was thinking about what I was going to present today, I kept coming back to the title, Women of Strength Helping Women in Need. And I thought the story I'll share, the story I'm going to weave through all of this is how my own perception of what a strong woman looks like and what a woman of strength actually looks like has really shifted over time. My beliefs started in my childhood, like everybody else. Those are some formative years. And I was raised by a single mother. And she taught me that a strong woman does these 4 things. That, first of all, I do everything myself. That I am a hard worker and I have to prove to the world that I'm capable, I'm independent, I'm reliable. She even taught me to never rely on a man, that was a big problem in her life. And so she wanted to make sure I never had that issue myself. To definitely do not show your emotions, to be logical, analytical, steady, to always have the answer, because when you're smart, I always say I get to have a seat at the table if I'm smart. So if I have the answer, it means I'm intelligent, that I'm a problem solver and a thinker. And to be certain. She was always a good worrier. I'm also a good worrier. So if we can future cast and plan for all of the what ifs, that it means that I am sure-footed, I am committed, and I'm determined. So let's talk about what I believed a woman in need would look like. I believed that if you asked for help, that meant that you were a failure, or that I was a failure, that I was needy, that I was incapable. If I showed my emotions, it was immature. I was being a typical female. That really stuck with me when I went into the oil industry, where it's mostly male dominated. I never wanted to be seen as feminine or female in any way. It really was a thing that held me back. If I didn't know the answer, I automatically assumed that I was dumb, and it meant that I had not informed myself or prepared myself properly. And if I was uncertain, it meant that I hadn't planned for all of the things. I must have missed something. So I hadn't researched, and I didn't care. So that was the foundation. That was my childhood foundation. And then I transitioned into adulthood, and I go off into the world. And that was a really hard set of beliefs to try to work with as I went out to try to make my way. So I get to my mid-30s, and I had made a mess, a big mess of my life. And it really came full circle at that time in my life. I had a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old. I was coming to the brutal realization that my husband had a very significant drinking problem. I was also working full time. And then because I had to be smart and independent, I was going to MBA school at night. My grandmother at that time had also become terminally ill, and I chose to be the caretaker for her. So what happened in all of that, in me trying to be a strong woman, to do everything myself and never show emotions and be the smartest person in the room, is I was mean, I was cruel, yelled a lot. I had a very short fuse. I was a terrible mother. I was a terrible wife. I was a very crummy friend. And I didn't really like the person that I was. And it wasn't until I hit, we all have those moments in our life that we hit a point where we just were not going to be able to do it anymore. I call that my low point. I had been invited to go to a Packer game. I'd never been, so I was excited. And I had a minivan at the time. And I said, okay, well, what if we all pile into my minivan? I'll get my office manager from my company to drive us, and then we can all party. And that's what we did. And I don't remember anything really from that day or that evening. I woke up the next morning on my bathroom floor, and I could tell that I had been sick most of the night. And I had a little sneaky suspicion that I had done something in the minivan, but I wasn't sure. So I went down to the garage, and I opened up the door, and sure enough, I had vomited in my minivan the previous night. And it was like right between the eyes. I'm standing there looking at this American symbol of motherhood, right? The minivan. And it's perfect and unblemished on the outside. And yet when I opened up the door, it represented, out of control mother who had made sick all over the interior. And it was at that point I realized I had to do something different. And out of sheer desperation, I asked for help, which really it challenged me to rethink what it meant to be strong, because strong women don't ask for help. And yet there I was, desperate and asking for help. And I got help. And it was, I got a therapist, and she really helped me put my life back together. I got a support group for families of alcoholics. And I also got a pastor who helped me really dive into spirituality and living a life with an understanding that we're kind of all in this together, and that there's something bigger than me. And all of that really put me on a different path in my life. And so I want to share what I learned at that time. The first and most important thing is that I learned that I need an outsider, that just like I can't tickle myself, I can't interrupt my own thoughts. I need somebody else to interrupt me. I learned that self-care isn't selfish, and especially as a mother of small children, if I'm not taking care of myself, there's no way I can be a good caretaker to them, and I wasn't. Um, I learned that I constantly was looking outside of myself, and I was really quick to blame and to criticize and to judge. And that was a really good indication to me that I was distracting myself from things I didn't want to deal with in myself. So when I do those things, I know that I need to go back and I need to look in the mirror. I need to figure out what's going on with me. I learned the distinction between what is my responsibility versus what do I want to own. That's been really a beautiful distinction for me. And then the last thing, I had and still have critical voices in my head, and they say things to me that are not terribly nice. Um, they pressure me, they push me, and they just don't make me feel very good. And I learned that I can't get rid of those voices, but what I can do is quiet them so that I can hear the other more kind, loving voices, wise voices in my mind. And those are the ones that I can hear more often. So off I went. You know, my husband went to rehab. We put our family and our marriage back together. And then life, super messy. There's another mess. And this time our 12-year-old daughter had started self-harming. And we immediately did the thing, right? We asked for help. We got a therapist. We got her into a group program. We got the counselors at school involved. And she just continued to plummet. She became suicidal. There were multiple attempts, multiple hospitalizations. We saw psychiatrists. We had more therapists. We had inpatient. We had outpatient. We were trying everything. At one point, I burned sage in her room out of desperation just to see if I could help. So what do you do when the thing that you knew worked before doesn't work now? And I started to bump up against, I don't just need to ask for help. I actually need to ask for more help and different kinds of help. And that challenged my own perception of who I was as a mother. What kind of a mother can't help her daughter? What kind of a mother, can't fix these things or can't help or support her to find her way? And I found that during that time, the thing that I got locked into is something I call the loop of doom. I'm a process engineer, and so I always think of processes. And so this is kind of the way this helped me understand my thinking at the time. It goes like this. It starts with some kind of a mess. And in this instance, the mess was my daughter, 13 years old at this point, is suicidal. She wants to die. And that is impossible to me. That reality, it is reality, was impossible for me to accept, to tolerate, to deal with. And so I hid because I'm human and I don't like to be uncomfortable. I don't like to feel painful things. And so I hide, not because I'm a jerk, but because I'm human. And then while I'm hiding, I create stories like middle school is terrible for all girls. Those darn smartphones and social media. Oh, it's the bullying at school. It's public education, you name it. I had stories. And then the key step in all of this is step number 4, which is to look around the world for proof that my stories are true. That's how I get to be stuck in the loop of doom. And all the time I'm in this loop, I'm not addressing the reality. And I wasn't addressing my daughter's needs. And so I needed to find an escape hatch. And the escape hatch, again, was a very painful process where I had to accept that, I can't mother her to wellness. And that there were some other things that might need to happen. So that the escape hatch looked like this. It's 2 steps. It's the first thing is to surrender, and the second thing is to share. For me, surrender is taking a nice deep breath and then saying the word okay. So my daughter is 13. Her suicide attempts are becoming more lethal. She may end up succeeding one of these days. Okay, that's a reality. I'm going to inhale, I'm going to take a deep breath, and I'm going to say, okay. It might be that in order for my daughter to get her needs met, she's not going to be able to live at home. Okay. And then the second step is to share. I had to do both of those things because once I started sharing, we were able to find programs and help that actually did work for her. And of course, sharing is terrorizing because what will people think? How will I be judged? I was in shame. My daughter was in shame. We were embarrassed. We didn't want anybody to know. What would they think? And yet, once I started sharing, which was awful and terrible and scary, once I started doing it, I found that 9 times out of 10, people surrounded us with love and they didn't judge us. And they did support us and they did find us the help that we needed. So that's my escape hatch, and I won't forget it. So now I look at strength, women of strength, and what is the reality is that I've now flipped 180 degrees. My slide was that women in need, this was the slide. And now what I've learned is that this is actually women of strength. I believe now that women of strength ask for help, that women of strength are ready to face reality, and they're smart enough to know that they're not going to do it alone. There is no reason to do it alone. I don't do it alone anymore. I will never do it alone anymore. Women of strength show their emotions. They know that you got to feel it to heal it. I no longer apologize for having emotions. Sometimes I cry, sometimes I tear up, sometimes I become angry. I'm never out of control. I'm having an emotional reaction, and I never apologize for it anymore because it's human. Women of strength don't know the answer. When I really, really want to find the answer, it's usually because I'm looking for a quick fix or a shortcut. Women of strength know we have to do the hard work. And women of strength are really good at being with and in uncertainty. I have a lot of anxiety. And so if I'm not careful, I will manufacture certainty by trying to plan for all the things. It's a lot of energy. It's kind of exhausting. And then more than half the time, those things never end up coming to fruition. So it's kind of a waste. What I found is that once I have accepted that we are in control of very little, I can be in uncertainty. I don't like it. It's never a place I want to hang out, but I can do it. And I can be confident that whatever comes my way, I'll figure it out. And I want to leave you with a little snippet from Tiny Buddha. It's a website, has a lot of good writings, and it's a great resource. And it's by a woman named Haley. She says, I reached out to a trusted friend seeking solace. Sobbing again, I texted her, knowing she would decipher the pain behind my words. She hesitated for a moment before responding. Duh. I hiccuped mid-sob, surprised. She went on. Feel it. It's going to hurt. But every moment you're sobbing, you're doing the work. Every moment you're hurting, you're healing. The only way out is through. And I love this as an ending for today, because this is why I love people like the people at Samaritan. I love the work that you're doing. And I respect and I admire what you do, not just for the people, the clients, but what you're doing for the community, what you're doing in our schools. You're living this, and you're the people that walk through this journey with others so that they can heal. Okay, if you want more, there is a TEDx. If you just search Allison Garner TEDx Oshkosh, you can find my TEDx where I talk specifically about the loop of doom in greater detail. I've also written 2 books, one that's already published on Amazon, Barnes Noble, Books A Million. It's called Think Possible. It's a book on leadership. And then my second book is one that I wrote with my daughter, and we shared our story about what it's like to be the mom and to be the daughter in this big, emotional tornado. It's called Unconditional, Learning to Navigate and Reframe Mental Illness Together. It will be publicly released in September. You can pre-order it right now at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and other places. And I think you can actually purchase the electronic version. I think Kindle and Nook. So, and if you want to talk, you want to tell me your story, you want to learn more about me, please reach out. I would love to hear from you. You can email me, call me, text me. You can find me on LinkedIn. I would love to hear from you. And I would love to turn this back over to Rosangela. Thank you again. I'm so honored to be here, and I love the work that you're doing.
Wow, Allison, thank you so much. What a powerful story you shared with us today. And particularly at this time when we are all living through so much uncertainty, to recognize that to sit with it, it's not a sign of weakness, but actually it's our journey through it towards that strength that we always need to work towards and to pursue. Thank you for sharing your story. It takes a lot of courage to be transparent with our secrets. And there are many lessons to be learned from your lived experiences today. Thank you so much. Well, now we are going to celebrate other women of strength. Each May since 2010, Samaritan Counseling Center has honored a woman with the Connie Steele Woman of Strength Award. Connie Steele served on Samaritan's board of directors with vision and strength. At one point, the board was discussing about raising $100,000, and she challenged them, why not $1 million? She challenged notions of what was possible. She also overcame personal adversity in her life, moving to a new community in the midst of cancer treatment. The award in her name recognizes Connie's brand of strength in other women. She embodied strength of character, integrity, generosity, faith, courage, optimism, persistence, and community service. This year, we received 3 outstanding nominations, and I would like to introduce them to you. Our first nominee is Zua Yang, nominated by Bo Huge, Tracy Hang, and Viset Mua. Zua is successful as a businesswoman who owns a 22-bed assisted living facility. She is also a full-time nurse practitioner, a mother of 7, and co-founder of the United Hmong American Association, a nonprofit organization supporting Hmong youth in the Fox Valley and Wisconsin with scholarships and other public events. When she's not working at the clinic, overseeing her assisted living facility, or tending to her family, she volunteers for the Hmong Nurses Association and the Hmong Institute. Zua was diagnosed with cancer while pursuing her nurse practitioner degree, but she persevered through the treatment and successfully graduated. Described as trustworthy, persistent, optimistic, and someone who never hesitates to do everything she can to help someone in need, she believes in second chances, treating everyone with respect, and loves getting people together to bond and enjoy life. Our second nominee is Cindy Millemans, nominated by Amy Cebulski, Tracy Springstraw, and Sharon Reynolds. Cindy has devoted her life and career to helping others. As administrator for Bread of Life Salvation Army, she's the same organization her and her family depended on for meals and clothing assistance when she was growing up. She works tirelessly with a course of volunteers to provide basic necessities to anyone who needs them. One of our nominators said this: "I have never seen anyone work harder to make sure her community is served and taken care of, whether packing backpacks full of school supplies, serving meals, preparing holiday celebrations, ringing bells, or sending snack packs home with kids for weekend meals. She makes sure everyone has food on the table and clothes to wear." The mission started in her trunk, grew to her garage, and then into a church basement. When she's not at Salvation Army, you will find Cindy helping with her nephew who has a health condition, or volunteering with her church, 4-H, and scouting programs. And our final nominee is Deb Burrich, nominated by Pastor Steve Savidis, Georgia Burso, and Wanda Van de Hey. Deb is described as a tireless servant of justice. A frequent traveler domestically and abroad, she has been to flooded areas in Iowa and Puerto Rico, to the poorest counties in Appalachia, to the cities ravaged by Katrina. She has bravely led mission trips to Kenya and led members to First Congregational Church in Appleton to sponsor 80 Kenyan students. Her deep faith is expressed in action in welcoming the outcast, in reaching out to the stranger, in seeing the needs of those she meets and finding a way to meet those needs. She's an organ donor, a dedicated spouse, mother, and grandmother, assisting with her 5-year-old autistic grandson on a weekly basis. In 2012, Deb answered the call from World Relief to welcome and support the first refugee family brought to Appleton since 9/11. She was instrumental in coordinating the services they needed to navigate uncharted territory. Deb also started Service Sunday at her church to give members the opportunity to lift up area shelters, foster families, veterans, the elderly, caregivers, the environment, food pantries, and more. We are all humbled by the work these 3 women do on a daily basis for their families and the community. They are motivated purely by the need to help make a difference. Each of these nominees is extraordinary and deserving of the award. So this year, we departed from our traditional procedure of choosing just one winner and decided to honor all 3 of them with an award. The women will each receive a custom pendant representing the woman of strength. It has been handcrafted by Jackie Shuby of Dubia Do Designs, and along with that, they're going to receive a small gift. Zua, Cindy, and Deb, thank you so much for your example, along with Allison. As I mentioned earlier, then, before we go, I want to share where we are at with the 2020 campaign. We had a goal of $40,000, and as of this morning, Thursday, we have raised nearly half of that. And that includes a $5,000 matching grant for the new donations from an anonymous individual. We know the demands for charitable investments have been greater than ever. So we consider ourselves blessed that you chose to support Samaritan Center. Now more than ever, as you are well aware, mental health is paramount importance, and we look to build a resilient community in the months and years ahead in the wake of COVID-19. But not only in the COVID-19 distress that we are all under, but also considering the social unrest that we have been watching on the media and experiencing ourselves over the past couple weeks. Early indicators gathered from 80 members organizations committed to mental health in our area suggest that about 45% of adults are saying that the crisis has had a negative impact on their mental health. And 65% of adults who lost income report worsened mental health. On top of this, we learned that the local police force and the crisis centers in Winnebago and Outagamie from March 1st to May 1st have seen a 200% increase in crisis calls to attend to mental health crises and suicide-related behaviors. In this context, more than ever, Samaritan is an essential care provider, and because of you and your generosity, we are able to offer services to the most vulnerable among us. If you have not done it yet, I would like to invite you to consider a recurring monthly investment of $20 and sponsor that way a client. This would subsidize up to 6 sessions for one individual. And to give an example of what is the impact of a gift like that, I'll tell you what one client recently wrote. She wrote that she wondered if her therapist knew that she saved her life. That's the difference your investment in Samaritan makes. You truly help transform lives. You truly help save lives. We are here. Samaritan is open, and we are delivering primarily teletherapy sessions and on a case-by-case basis, in-person sessions. So if you or someone you know is in need, please call us to help. Call to schedule an appointment at 920-886-9319. Please, friends, watch for an email tomorrow from us. We will be sending you the recording of this presentation and some links to help you continue sharing Samaritan. we would be honored if you could continue to spread the word of the work that we are doing and how we can help the community feel better and develop the strength of which we heard Allison talk about in her own life and what we saw in our 3 nominees. So please, friends, I would like to invite you to share Samaritan and this presentation with your friends. Thank you for caring about mental health. Thank you for joining us today and for supporting Samaritan. And if you are moved to make another contribution or know someone who would like to support us and know more about us, there's still time to do so by following the link on your screen or mailing your contribution to us in the address that you have there. Thank you so much for what you are doing to make our community better, to help women find their strength, women and men, to create a community that's going to overcome the difficulties we are going through now and come, as we go through it, come on the other side much stronger. Thank you, and God bless you all.
Thanks, everybody.